Welcome to Carolina News Now. I am Chandler Morgan. Hey, if you are with us right now, that means we have made it to Friday. A round of applause for everybody getting through the week. But here's what's going to happen. We're going to get you caught up on everything that you need to know that happened this week across the Carolinas. So that means that we're going to be taking you places like Myrtle Beach. Hey, if you're catching a flight, we've got a story coming up about how that airport is growing. We've also got our top story following the Alex Murdaugh investigation. So we've got a big update in that investigation from our Adam Mincer coming up in just a bit. But hey, since it's Friday, why not talk about the weather? If you've got plans, hey, here's a look at our HD tower cam right here in Charlotte. If you're coming to visit us here in the Queen City, looking great this weekend, but want to bring in our Rachel Coulter, who is actually tracking what you can expect for the weather across the Carolinas this weekend.
I'm WBTV meteorologist Rachel Coulter, based out of Charlotte, and we have some really nice conditions ahead of us. This past week has been unseasonably warm across the Carolinas. Felt a little bit closer to summer than what we would typically anticipate this time of year. But next week, we're going to be much closer to normal, much more fall-like for this time of year, which is where we should be now that we are making our way well through October. This is all thanks to a cold front that's going to be moving through. So I wanted to time this out because the timing of the rain and the cooler temperatures will vary just depending on where you are. So if you are in the mountain area, that's where we're going to see the showers move in first, but not until tomorrow. Throughout the rest of the day today, no matter if you are out in the mountains or along the beaches, we're going to be dry across the Carolinas and very warm, above average, even seeing those near record high temperatures. It's going to be tomorrow morning where we're going to start to see those rain chances climb, especially for our westernmost counties. Out towards Boone and Asheville could see some periods of rain as early as 8-9 o'clock tomorrow morning as that cold front is on our doorstep. Temperatures will still be warm in central and eastern portions of the Carolinas and will be dry at this time. Working our way through time, this is 12 o'clock, and that's going to be about the best chance we could see some showers in the Charlotte metro area up towards Greensboro as well. But you can see coverage decreases big time beyond the mountains. We're just not going to have as much moisture, and temperatures will be trying to reach 80 degrees in Charlotte area at that point, but then will start to fall after the cold front moves through. Looks like moisture picks up just a little bit beyond Charlotte and into the Raleigh area. So looking at the rest of the Piedmont and into the eastern portions of the North Carolina area and down into South Carolina, that's when we're going to see those rain chances pick back up into the afternoon and evening hours. So evening plans along the beaches, along the coastline, you're certainly going to want to make sure you have that umbrella in tow. Keep it with you even by 11 o'clock. Outer Banks could be seeing some heavy rainfall as we wrap up our Saturday evening. Then watch what happens. These cooler temperatures start to work in, and those low temperatures are going to be back in those 40s for most of the states of North Carolina and South Carolina by Sunday morning, even the upper 30s up towards the mountains. Boone looking pretty chilly heading out the door Sunday morning, and then we'll stay dry through the rest of our Sunday. A very beautiful fall day ahead, and all of these cooler temperatures are really going to help all of the fall colors up towards the high elevations of the mountains. That's what Beech Mountain looked like just a couple of days ago, and it'd be imagining that this weekend it's going to look beautiful, especially once that cold front moves through. Here's the 7-day forecast, at least based out of the Charlotte area, but it's going to be very similar no matter where you are. Temperatures are going to be a little bit closer to average once we get towards the end of the weekend. We will see that warming trend into next week, but it's still going to be very nice, comfortable, and mostly dry through the 7-day forecast.
All right, Rachel, thank you. We are going to kick off our coverage now in South Carolina. We're going to go to Columbia. This is a story, though, that you probably have heard of across the Carolinas and really across the southeast region. A prominent South Carolina attorney, Alex Murdaugh, is back in jail. He's been arrested again. And I want to walk you through this, too, because this is a very complex case. So 3 months earlier, his wife and one of his sons, they were shot to death. You'll recall that Murdaugh was also charged with trying to have himself killed in order to get $10 million in insurance money. Well, now our Adam Mincer is here to walk us through what's next in this investigation. He's here talking with the attorney for Murdaugh's former housekeeper.
Eric Bland calls today's charges a, quote, rifle shot, and says he expects more to come in the future.
I'm sure there's going to be many more charges coming against him just in connection with what happened to the Satterfields.
This case started in February of 2018 when the housekeeper for the Murdaugh family died after a fall at the family's home.
Everything that I am told and I'm learning is consistent with an accidental death with the dogs tripping her down the stairs of the Mazzell property. Those are about 8 very steep brick stairs.
Then, according to Bland, Murdaugh told Satterfeld's children to sue him, and Murdaugh suggested a good friend of his to represent the former housekeeper's estate. Bland says his clients went years without even knowing about the multi-million-dollar settlement reached between Murdaugh and the estate. When asked what comes next, Bland said he had a few thoughts.
There's 3 checks that he misappropriated. There's also the additional counts of wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy. It's not a far stretch to know that he didn't probably report $3.6 million on his income tax returns.
Bland says since going public with his client's story, he has heard of people with similar experiences.
People would tell us that the bank has acted as personal representative for other estates, so that this was not a one-off situation.
He also says while he's happy SLED made this arrest, he wished it happened earlier.
Based on his past behavior, I am disappointed that it took as long as it did to arrest him, because he has had the better part of a month and a half to manipulate his money, to move it around, to take certain actions. He's already shown he's a dangerous man.
Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Adam Mintzer, WIS News 10 in Columbia.
We're going to travel up to Charlotte now, where we're learning that tens of thousands of people are stuck waiting in North Carolina for their day in court. And we're talking about cases of all kinds really here: criminal, civil, divorce, even child support cases. Now we've got WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxner looking into this. He's found that these delays in court have officials and lawyers really just scrambling.
It was slow at the Mecklenburg County Courthouse Monday morning, a big change from how things were before the pandemic, when a Monday morning would have brought crowds of people showing up for all sorts of cases.
Well, right now in Mecklenburg County, we're not doing cases in court.
Mark Jatan is a lawyer in Charlotte who handles both civil and criminal cases. For much of the past 2 years, he says, it's been nearly impossible to get any movement in criminal court.
So that means we're talking about tens of thousands of cases potentially stacking up over the last 2 years.
Tens of thousands of cases. It is absolutely so backed up, and just don't really know what will go on with the cases and how they'll get called up.
Jatan says the problem means his clients are waiting for their day in court, and so are victims of crime waiting for defendants to face justice.
I can tell you, I have a 2019 case that was supposed to be in court last week, and the date that I was given for my case was May of 2022.
It's large enough that it has impacted practically everything that we do around here.
Trey Robison is district attorney in Union County. Unlike in Mecklenburg, Union County courtrooms are back open, but Robison's still bearing out from the more than a year of backed up cases.
I mean, crime didn't stop, and officers didn't stop doing their jobs. People didn't stop robbing each other. Drug dealers didn't stop selling drugs. And so all these cases are kind of being put into the system, while on the other end of the system, we're struggling to manage the caseload. That has been a huge issue.
Robison says no matter what his office does, they can only do so much without extra judges holding court.
What we need is court. And part of the problem with the courts is you know, under COVID restrictions, you can only have a certain number of people in the courtroom at any given time.
The other counties that around Mecklenburg County their court system seems to be moving at a much quicker pace.
Do you see any improvement on the horizon?
You know, and that's one of the most frustrating things. It seems from my perspective that there's just not much information being released, especially here in Mecklenburg County.
Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Nick Oxner, WBTV in Charlotte.
All right, thank you, Nick, for that update there. Definitely an issue we'll continue to look into. But hey, okay, so it's Friday. Do you have any Friday plans? Maybe you're catching a flight somewhere. Well, we're now getting a story out of Myrtle Beach now, so we're going to head on over to South Carolina. We're learning about the airport there, and I know this is something you've probably seen in your area. A lot of businesses have been struggling through the COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen businesses closed down. Of course, the airline industry really just shut down for a lot of the pandemic too. Not a lot of people were flying. Well, we're learning that Myrtle Beach International Airport actually is growing. And so we've got reporter Ian Klein here with us talking about how frequent flyers could see some major changes at this airport.
The airport has spent about 5 years making a number of improvements. Probably the most noticeable for passengers would be the new concession addition of Starbucks over by Concourse B. However, there's a number of changes that have been taking place behind the scenes normal passengers wouldn't see on a day-to-day basis, but help get you from point A to point B.
2021 definitely set the bar high. It was a very strong recovery.
After the airline industry stood still in 2020, Myrtle Beach International Airport has seen a tremendous comeback of flyers. It is on pace to break the airport's all-time travel record for a single year.
We experienced a recovery rate that was much higher than the national average, and that really is that demographic shift from going from business traffic to a leisure market like ours. We were fortunate, we were very aggressive with the carriers. They saw the demand for people wanting to come to Myrtle Beach.
Most recently, the airport added a brand new $60 million concrete taxiway, allowing more room for flights and maneuverability around the airport gateway. There is also a new baggage claim technology to make sure your luggage gets to and from your flight properly. Spokesperson for Myrtle Beach International Airport, Ryan Betcher, says this is only the beginning for a rapid growing airport.
One of the improvements that we talked about earlier was the baggage handling system, kind of expanding that to accommodate all the new air carrier growth, the influx of bags that are going in and out of MYR. Some other items was the expansion of the TSA checkpoint, just trying to get more passengers through there efficiently.
Across the street at the rental car lot, a new 2-year, $20 million canopy project will help bring some shade, comfort to those needed picking up rental cars, whether you're in town for business or just on a family vacation.
It's going to drastically improve the customer experience in that lot by having covered parking spaces, getting the public out of the rain, inclement weather, the sun.
The airport is also in the early stages of expanding its airline gates. What is currently Gate A7 will become an expansion for 5 more airline boarding gates, which should be completed in 3 years.
We're trying to be proactive into making sure that we talked about the terminal expansion project. That's one that's a very proactive step. We need more capacity during these bigger months, so we're trying to make not just these long-term plans, but also interim plans to kind of get us through the next couple of years. But I think we're in a good position going forward, and we're excited about the future.
And with the expansion happening, a number of job opportunities will also be popping up. Those job listings are posted right now on the Myrtle Beach International Airport website. Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Ian Klein.
All right, let's go just down the South Carolina coast now to Charleston, where we are talking to a South Carolina woman who actually had multiple risk factors. She said that she got COVID and then she completely recovered just 2 weeks after testing positive for the virus. Summer Hector is talking to her about what she says she gives a lot of credit to for her complete recovery.
A vaccinated South Carolina woman is crediting Trident Medical Center here in Charleston for helping her recover after having COVID and experiencing serious symptoms.
I didn't think I was going to make it.
Donna Livernoy is 65 years old, has asthma and type 2 diabetes. She tested positive for COVID 2 weeks ago. She lives in Taylor, South Carolina, and couldn't find a place in her area where she could receive monoclonal antibody treatment until days later. She says she was on track to eventually be admitted to a hospital and need a ventilator. Her daughter, who lives here, helped her find that Trident Medical Center could give her the monoclonal antibody infusion. She got the treatment on Thursday, September 30th.
I got up the next morning, I was barely wheezing. It was like night and day. compared to the way I got down there.
Donna got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine a few months ago, but says she wasn't sure whether that lessened any of her symptoms. She was having trouble breathing, was coughing, and lost her taste and smell. The chief medical officer for Trident Medical Center, Dr. Lee Biggs, says most patients who come to hospitals or medical practices who are at risk of hospitalization are typically not vaccinated. However, he says vaccine status is not considered when deciding who receives antibody treatment.
With an overlay of age or pre-existing medical conditions, you're still at risk, and so the vaccine status doesn't play into whether or not you should get monoclonal antibodies.
Dr. Biggs says of the vaccinated people who have also ended up needing monoclonal antibody treatment, one vaccine has not seemed to be more or less effective than the others. For Carolina News Now, I'm Summer Hector, Live 5 News in Charleston.
Summer, thanks. All right, let's go up to Greenville, North Carolina now, where we've got a really interesting story. I mean, if you have lived in the Carolinas, you know we get those hurricanes, we get the flooding, we have the rising sea levels we're facing. In North Carolina and South Carolina coast, they face a lot of threats from Mother Nature. Let's just face it there. This is what we've seen time and time again. Okay, so now we're learning that state leaders are coming together because they want to find ways that they can help preserve our coasts.
Legislators will have to make some tough decisions to save our coastal areas from further damage. Presentations, panel discussions, and Q&As on the current and ongoing coastal conservation threats to the east have concluded, but Congressman Greg Murphy says the dust is nowhere near settled on the matter. Local leaders and environmental science experts join forces to tackle waterway challenges across the east.
The fact that we have all of the representation, county commissioners, our legislatures at the state, our congressional representatives in one room listening and hopefully acting on what we're doing. It doesn't happen very often. I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
We brought together really a brain trust of people to identify the problem and deal with it, and then implement plans to take care of things in the future that deal with flooding and waterway management.
Dr. Corbett wants to make sure the current and ongoing threat of rising sea levels is easy to understand.
As scientists, we have to be good stewards of the data. And I think what this conference is doing is providing the baseline, right? So everybody's starting on the same playing field. Here is the data. Here is what we know. Here are the projections moving forward. What do we do?
And he says there is no one-size-fits-all solution for coastal conservation.
And that was one thing I tried to present, was the differences that we have across our state. We need to look at it spatially and across different timescales.
And go from presentations, Murphy says, to action.
This is about learning and learning from each other, learning from a lot of smart people in the room, but it can't end today. It has to end up with legislation, it has to end up with policies, it has to end up actually affecting the way that we live near the water in eastern North Carolina.
This event is the first of what is planned to be an annual meeting of science experts and local leaders. Congressman Murphy says that we do not need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to coastal conservation, but rather take what all of these scientists have already studied and confirmed and move forward with active legislation. Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Maddie Kurth, WITN, Greenville, North Carolina.
All right, to Wilmington now. We've got a story, and we want to take you back a little bit here. Actually, further back, a long time ago, 1898. An unknown number of Black Americans in Wilmington, dozens of them, maybe even hundreds, they were murdered at the hands of white supremacists. We've got Francis Weller here with us, who is learning that the first grave of one of the unknown number of Black people who were killed has been discovered.
123 years after the infamous 1898 massacre, the first grave of one of the unknown number of Black people killed has been discovered. Joshua Halsey is buried here in an unmarked grave in Pine Forest Cemetery off Rankin Street. Members of a nonprofit research group called Third Party Project were able to locate the grave after handwritten maps in the Pine Forest Registry were digitized.
When that was digitized, we were able to go through it and start finding some names that were attached to these families. And step by step, that narrowed down the places where they could have been in the cemetery, could be. And then from there, we were able to get it within just a a meter or so of where we know the burial is.
Halsey was just 40 years old when a group of angry white men shot and killed him outside his home.
On November 10th, 1898, a 40-year-old deaf black man was in his home, and his daughter was frightened that the mobsters were coming to get him. And in encouraging her deaf father to leave the house, he ran right into the midst of gunfire.
Halsey was one of an unknown number of African Americans slaughtered by white supremacists who took over Wilmington in 1898. Before the coup d'etat, blacks made up over 50% of the population and controlled local government. Some of the bodies were never found. Others were quickly buried.
The medical examiner said he was shot multiple times. They were so afraid of what would happen if the community knew that Josh Halsey had been murdered. They threw his body in the grave and never talked about it again. No funeral, nothing. In an unmarked grave at a family plot.
On November 6th, the city of Wilmington, New Hanover County, and the 1898 Commemorative Foundation will have a funeral for Mr. Halsey. The public is encouraged to line the streets outside Pine Forest Cemetery at 3:15.
It's a real funeral. You know, I mean, the family is coming. There will be a stone. Their ancestors buried there and never got a funeral, but it's also a symbolic funeral for the people who died here.
What it means to me on November 6th is that Joshua Halsey will get the funeral, first of all, that he deserves, and his descendants will be able to say goodbye to him.
Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Frances Weller, WBTV News, Wilmington.
Frances, thank you. All right, I have pulled up this camera here. Look at this picture of Wrightsville Beach. It looks so nice this weekend. I want to know if you're watching with us, if you're watching Carolina News Now on Facebook, leave me a comment of what your plans are this weekend. If you're going to the beach, can I please come along with you, because that looks rather nice there. Again, this is Wrightsville Beach, a resort cam over there. So let's get a check of your weather before we let you go, because we want to make sure that you know what you're getting into this weekend. I hear things are going to be cooling down a little bit over the Carolinas. I'm excited. Let's check in with Rachel Coulter.
I'm WBTV meteorologist Rachel Coulter in Charlotte, but the Carolinas is going to be seeing some really big changes heading into the weekend. We've been so unseasonably warm, breaking records in some locations, getting really close to it in other areas, but next week will be much closer to normal. This is all thanks to a cold front that's going to be moving through. Could bring some showers to the mountains tomorrow morning. So Saturday morning showers, mountain region, that's where we're expecting the best rain chance, at least for the morning hours of your Saturday. But once that cold front moves through, you're going to be drying out quickly and cooling down quickly. So these temperatures in Asheville and in Boone are both going to be topping out in the 60s tomorrow, and look at that drop even into Sunday and Monday as that cold front has pushed off towards the east and the cooler, drier conditions have worked into the area. Heading out the door this weekend in the Charlotte area, we're going to see those high temperatures try to reach 80 degrees for your Saturday afternoon, but then that cold front moves through. That could bring a few spotty showers, certainly some passing clouds in the middle of the day on Saturday and into those early afternoon hours. But once that cold front pushes east, you can see what happens. Temperatures drop into the upper 60s for Sunday, waking up in the 40s, which will be a common scene across the Carolinas Sunday morning and even Monday morning. And temperatures will then at that point top out in those low 70s. For the beaches this weekend, we're going to be a little bit on the warm side tomorrow. Very summer-like. We're going to have those temperatures near 90 degrees once again for your Saturday, and most of the day will be dry. It's going to be the evening hours where we start to see those rain chances increase, especially from west to east. But once that cold front pushes through, Wilmington, Charleston, temperatures right around and on either side of 70 degrees for your Saturday, or your Sunday forecast, I should say. Heading into your Monday, much cooler conditions on the way. And once that cold front pushes through, certainly we'll see the peak of the fall color, especially out in the highest elevations in the mountains. This was just a couple of days ago, taken there from Beach Mountain. Gorgeous scenery there. Can only imagine how beautiful that's going to look once we get towards this weekend, with the lower elevations likely seeing that peak color of the fall colors heading into next weekend. So here's your 7-day forecast, at least for the Charlotte area, but it's going to be very similar across the region. We're all going to be much cooler here heading into the weekend with a gradual warm up, maybe some showers towards the end of the 7-day forecast, but all in all, closer to where we should be this time of year.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much. And hey, thanks for watching with us, Carolina News Now on this Friday. We're going to be here every Friday for you at 1 in the afternoon. The great thing is you can watch us on the go. You can watch on your local news streaming app. You can watch on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. Catch us on your lunch break. We were watching on Facebook Live today too. So hello and thanks for watching with us. This is the great thing about Carolina News Now. We team up with 6 gray television stations and we bring you the big stories of your area to get you caught up on what's happening across the Carolinas. All right, I'm Chandler Morgan. Thanks for joining us here in Carolina News Now. Have a great weekend and a great Friday.